Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing and discussing a book that I probably should have read years ago, and I'm reading purely because YouTube made me want to read it. Everyone talks about it and everybody raves about it, and that is The Vampire Academy by Richelle Mead. I just thought this book was okay. I wasn't blown away by it. It fell a little flat for me. It didn't meet my expectations. I don't know if my expectations were just too lofty for it or if I just was expecting to. I don't know. But it wasn't everything it was nothing like what I thought it was going to be. Nothing. I would give it like a solid 3 stars. It was good, but not great. But I am going to continue with the series because I do think I remember someone saying that it gets better as the books go on. In this world, there are 3 different types of vampire. There are the Moroi, which are a mortal vampire. They age, they grow old, and they die. There are also the Dhampir vampires, which are a blend of human and Moroi. They have the superhuman strength, they have the agility, they have the heightened senses that a vampire has, but they are also part human. They don't live on blood. They eat regular food. Neither of those vampires are anything like what anybody thinks of when they think of the word vampire. And then there are the Strigoi. They are what we most typically think of when we think of the word vampire. Now in this book we follow 2 best friends, Lissa and Rose. Lissa is a Moroi princess. She is the last in her bloodline, and then her best friend is Rose. She is a Dhampir. 2 years prior to this novel starting, they decide to run away from where they go to school. They go to school at a boarding school in Montana, and they decided to escape. They run away, and the book starts off with them being captured by the Guardians and brought back to school. I do have to say this book was very, very heavy on the world building. There was a lot of background and lore that needed to be laid down, and I did find it a little confusing and a little just like dropped in my lap at some points. It wasn't as nicely woven into the story as I would have liked it to be. It took me a while to get the whole like Dhampir thing down because there's a lot of like nuances being a Dhampir. With that being said, it didn't ruin the story. It just caused there to be less action than I would have liked. Now this book is also set in high school at a boarding school, so there was a lot of drama, a lot of pettiness, a lot of he said this, she said that, they did this, they did that, how dare she, spreading rumors. And I am not I don't really like gossip. I don't like to read about it. I don't like to follow it. It's just gets on my nerves. Like, who cares? Who really cares? So that really annoyed me throughout this book. I was really, by the end of it, glad that there was finally an action scene. I mean, through all the petty complaining and whining and backstabbing that every character did to each other, we did learn a lot of folklore and a lot of customs about the Dhampir and the Moroi, and a little about the Strigoi, but mainly it was just a lot of whining. That was probably my biggest turnoff from this book. But I did really like Rose. I thought that she was kind of like an I don't really care, yet she did. Like, she just did things because she did them. She was reckless, she was careless, she just did whatever she wanted. She didn't really think about other people's feelings. She was snarky. I love snarky, rude, sarcastic characters. I bond with them. I love them. And she was snarky and rude, and I really appreciated that. She did play into the whole gossip. I do understand that these people do grow up to be royals and to rule over something. I'm assuming that they rule something if they're royals, the general population of Moroi vampires. And it has to do a lot with like marriages in the future. You're always doing it for better social standing. So it was like the 15th century ideas on class and marriage and that kind of stuff mixed into like modern day high school. It was a weird connection. It wasn't obviously enough to turn me off from the book, because I did enjoy it and I did finish it. I think that's all I have to say about this book that doesn't have to do with specific plot points. So if you haven't read this book, which is probably very few of you, go ahead and go read it and then come back and talk to me once you've read it, because I am now going to talk about specific things that I was either annoyed by or confused about, because this book did leave me confused. more than once. And so if you haven't read it, go ahead and leave. Okay, so back to the whole Moroi magic. I thought that was really interesting that she gave vampires magical abilities that were centered around nature, because in most other folklore that you read about this kind of stuff, about like witches and vampires, they're exclusive. Like, you can't be a vampire and be a witch, because being a vampire is against laws of nature, and as a witch you have to abide by laws of nature. So I thought that was a really cool twist, that these vampires were able to harness and do like earth magic and manipulate water and air and fire. I thought that was really cool. I also really liked that there was like that magical, that like fifth element that nobody really knew about. Obviously, as soon as we found out that Lissa doesn't specialize in anything, she still hasn't specialized, I was immediately like, well, obviously there's a reason. She's not a late bloomer, because that's boring. There's a reason she's not specializing in anything. She has to be something special, and she turns out to have this very rare ability to like channel spirit. So she is better at compulsion than any other vampire. She can bring people back from the dead. She can heal things. Like, that was super, super cool. I liked that that was her power. Also, when we find out that they have a bond, that Lissa and Rose have a bond that they are told to keep secret by some kind of psychotic teacher that they had before they left school, that obviously means something if they were told to keep it a secret. So I knew that was going to play out to be something important, and that has to do with Lissa's abilities to heal things as well. Don't let anybody know about that. That's a big deal. You want to keep that secret. I understand if it's rare, but is it rare bad? Is it rare good? Is it like, is she a savior for everybody? Is she going to cause destruction? I don't know. And then we find out at the end that people who have this element of spirit tend to go crazy and insane and suffer from like mental illnesses, and Lissa cuts her wrists whenever she gets too overwhelmed with emotion and desire to heal or compulse people, because she needs like a distraction, like a physical distraction, to bring her mind, to clear her mind, to bring her back to herself. And so that's why the teacher went and turned Strigoi, which I was not expecting that. I did not think that Mrs. Carp was going to end up being a Strigoi. What did they meet her again later on in a different book? And then that little brat, what was her name? Mia. I did not like her. I don't know who would like her, but she was just so petty. And the Morois were really, really rude to like Rose, because she's obviously the down period point of view we read through, saying, oh, if you enjoy having someone drink your blood, and if you're having, you had Lissa drink your blood, that's so dirty, that's just, you're a blood whore. And then they go and say, like, if a Dampier sleeps with a Moroi and lets the Moroi feed on them, that's really dirty, and that's just a whole other issue in of itself. I don't know, I just thought that was so archaic, like, so just a weird system, a weird idea that she came up with like that. I did think it was cool though that you could turn a Moroi, a Dampier, or a human into a Strigoi. Is that true? Can you do that? I also thought it was really cool that if a Moroi drinks a person to death, it turns them into a Strigoi. It takes their soul, it turns them immortal, and makes them this power-hungry version of a vampire that we all come to know. And how did you turn a Dampier into a... Couldn't you turn a Dampier into... Can you only turn a Moroi into a Strigoi? I feel like you could also turn a human into one too. A bite? Being bitten? I don't remember. Also, I felt like it took these characters a really long time to piece together information. It took Rose to like the end of the book to figure out the shadow-kissed Anna and Saint Vladimir, and how he was just like Mrs. Carp, who was just like Lissa, and how they're all connected. Like, that took a really long time to develop. I thought it was obvious really early on. And I kind of thought that she was an idiot. And like, why is this taking you so long to piece together? It's stated very clearly in that text. I mean, yeah, it's a religious text, so they kind of take it as he is full of spirit, as in like religion and stuff. But if you think about like what she already knows, like, why did it take her so long to figure it out? I don't know. I just felt like the way that the information was revealed to you throughout the book, it kind of made the characters seem a little dumb, but then you find out that they already knew this ahead of time. It was weird. I felt like they were all really slow to figuring things out. And the whole time I'm sitting here and I'm waiting, like, what is this big conflict going to be? What is the big story arc of this novel going to be? Because it can't just be all of these teenagers complaining to each other about who slept with who, or who's dating who, or why that girl has dead animals on her bed, and why she keeps ending up in the hospital. Like, there has to be some other larger scope if this is a series. And finally, at the end, we figure out what I was like waiting. I'm like reading the pages, like, come on, I want to know what the big part, like the big meat of the book is. And we find out that Natalie, who is Lissa's cousin, Natalie's dad, is trying to overthrow the queen and restore the ancient way. I guess years and years and years ago, the Moroi used to fight alongside their guardians. They used to use their magic in battle and use it as an offense technique, not just to use it to, I don't even know what they use their magic for if they don't use it to fight anymore. Like, what do they do with it? She didn't mention that. But they used to be very powerful warriors who fought alongside their guardians. And he wants to restore that. So he wants to overthrow the queen. No one would ever elect him or allow him to be the king because of this disease that he has. So he captures Lissa and whisks her away and makes her heal him. Finally, we had action. Finally, I could see we had a clear villain. It wasn't just like petty high school drama. And I was involved. Then I was interested in it, but it took until then for me to be like, this is a series worth continuing. I thought it was cool how we find out that Natalie specializes in earth magic, and she rotted the bench that caused Rose fall. And right then, when Rose wakes up in the hospital and has no injuries, and they can't figure out how, and she says, I hear bones breaking, and you're like, how'd you wake up with no injuries if you heard bones breaking? And right then I was like, oop, Lissa healed her. Lissa totally healed her, and Lissa totally healed her in the accident all those years ago. And it turns out she didn't just heal her in the accident, she brought her back to life. Like, she was dead, she kissed to death. That's why she's called shadow kissed. It's an actual term used to describe people that were brought back from literal death. Like, she was gone. Back to the whole Natalie thing. When we finally learned that Natalie was conspiring with her dad to take down Lissa and capture her so that he could use her, so that he could be healthy in order to take over their community. I liked all that deception. I liked that Natalie was such a innocent side character that you didn't really give much thought to. You know, she didn't really fit in. She wasn't trying to be a royal. She wasn't trying to be friends with all of those girls. She was just kind of there. And I didn't expect at the end for her to be so deceitful. Because she ended up being the one that was putting all the dead animals in Lissa's room. That's how they were getting in. They couldn't figure out how people were doing it. And then it's her own roommate. Because she just wanted to see if Lissa could heal it. So she could, pass the information along on to her dad. And she comes busting into the cell and is like, I'm a Strigoi now. And I was like, what? She said the most twisted logic that I'd ever heard. I will turn myself into a Strigoi to help my dad if necessary. He's trying to rid the world of Strigoi. Like, he's trying to empower his people to go after them and fight them and confront them, not hide in the shadows and wait until they come to them, but to actively seek out and destroy this other race of vampires who are abominations. Then his daughter turned into one because he told her to. And I was like, why? Like, I didn't think she had a reason that made sense as to why she would do that. And then she was dead. That was it. That was the end of it. Okay, well, I mean, she did just say she had to die for the cause. She would. Felt like she died really, really fast for the cause. I don't know. What if she's not actually dead? What if there's like some other mystical magic that can bring her back or something? I thought about this right away when we find out that the bond between Lissa and Rose was created because Lissa healed her. I was like, does that mean Lissa's also bonded to Christian because she saved Christian, and she's bonded to Victor because she healed Victor, and then the bird, And then they find out that the bird is bonded to her. And like, what about the other two? Are they like more loyal to her now because of it? Can she use that to like create an army? Is that important? I liked the whole how Victor used the ancient spells to enchant that necklace to cause that lust thing between Rose and Dimitri. That was like the first time we actually got to see magic in use, other than when Christian set that guy on fire without actually harming him. Like, I want to see more of the magic. I want to see more people use it. I know it's frowned upon, but then what's the point of having it if you can't use it for anything? Like, they specialize in it, and then what? What do they do with it? They don't fight. They're not warriors. What do they do with their magic? And so I'm curious to see how this will continue, because at the end, Natalie dies, so she's not a threat unless she comes back in some mysterious way. And Victor gets recaptured. It's clear there's going to be some kind of war, some kind of conflict between the current queen, Tatiana, and her rule and how things have been done for many, many centuries, and then Victor wanting to reinstill the foundational beliefs of what Roy used to do. Also, do you really think that Saint Vladimir never went Strigoi? Anna was able to prevent him from losing his insanity, and that Rose is going to be able to help Alyssa find that middle ground where she can use her powers and be a Maroi princess and not go insane? Or did something else happen to Saint Vladimir that allowed him to live out his days? I'm really curious. Maybe he turned Strigoi and he's still alive. I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts were. I want to know what you thought of this book. If it lived up to all of your expectations and the hype that you had heard, or if it kind of fell a little flat for you like it did for me. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I will talk to you guys very soon. Bye! I'm so hot. Can cure injuries, can cure injuries. That in my weakness I am strong. Excuse me. Vampire Academy series? No, we're just doing the first book today. Today I am going to be I can't resist the day. The bigger the hair, the more lioness we've got going here. There once was a boy named Hare. What are you doing? Cooperate. God, I'm like sweating my bejesus off. And a little bit about the Strigoi. I knew you'd come around. She is the. Will you be mine tonight? I should probably think of some coherent sentences real quick. Why do you say some of the stupidest things in the world? She said he's so sweet. That's the wrong side. If I just do this with my hand, do you get what I'm saying? If I just keep doing this, you get that, right? Oh, 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 da, 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 da.